no, I've not turned my microphone on. There we go. Microphone is now on. So, can everybody hear me okay? Everybody's in the room, I think. Yay, good. Okay, so today is the second lecture. I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of Meshmixer, and I'll show you what I like about it, what I do with it. I'll show you a brief little couple of things, and don't worry too much about, stressing over this. I'll tell you where there's some absolutely fabulous places that you can carry on learning with Meshmixer. It's impossible for me to show you everything you can possibly do in the space of half an hour, but I will be showing you some of the basics to get you going. Where I learned Meshmixer was just fiddling around a few years ago. And going from there, looking at some of the things that people like August Oliveira were doing, who is also going to be doing a lecture for us, Christian Breens, people like that, some of the amazing things that they've done, and I pretty much use it on a daily basis now. There's some software that will do some of the functions that Meshmixer does, but to be honest with you, once you've got used to Meshmixer, it's so quick and easy to perform very simple functions like cleaning up a model or producing a model that for me, it makes it invaluable. And the best thing of all, it's free. So all the things that you've seen me designing for the for this COVID mask thing and the ventilator splitter and all that sort of stuff, it's all been in Meshmixer. So it's a very versatile software. You can do all sorts of things with it. And there's some great tutorials in places like YouTube, Vimeo, and things like that. All of which and many more are all on the idda.org website too. So there's an e-learning platform there, and we've put everything together. We spent a long time putting a lot of videos together, not just for Meshmixer, but for pretty much everything in dentistry with digital, for dentists, technicians, for the maintenance side of things, everything. And the best thing of all, you get a nice little certificate and stuff with that. So if you're not a member, go online, use the code COVID-19 to join, and you'll get it half price as well. As well today, I've got to say, thank you very much to everybody who's been donating to everything that we've been doing so far in literally the space of, how many hours? 18 hours, whatever it is. We've raised over £500. It's amazing. So keep it up. It's really appreciated. It's going to go to good places with producing masks, visors, ventilator parts, and important things for hospitals. I'm going to say, and I'll probably be criticized by somebody in government or media, but they don't all dentists and doctors don't have PPE. We have thousands of part requests all the time from hospitals with things, and it's crazy how much they need it in places in America. Someone was telling me yesterday they're wearing bandanas with stuff, and it's awful. So us guys and you and all the guys who are producing things, it's kind of our responsibility. If we can help, we should help. So, help those frontline staff that are keeping, our loved ones, the nearest and dearest and elderly alive. So give to that. Get on the website, 3dprintcovid19.com. If you can produce. If you want to help in just, donating so that we can pay for parts and shipping and postage, great. It's all going to be tracked. We're forming a full charity with it, so it's all going to be fully kosher with it. But otherwise, so we'll get going. I'll start talking about what you're here for, which is Meshmixer. Can you all hear what I'm saying properly? Is the screen clear? Everything's good. And you should see this folder with loads of numbers, F1, F2, and all that. We'll come to that later. If I go back again, so let's show you. So I'm loading up Meshmixer. When you load up Meshmixer, one of the things you can do is when you see Meshmixer here, there is icons, import, open, all these sorts of things. You can import Bunny if you want to play around with. But really, Meshmixer is very, very simple. Everything you can do, you can either bring in files from import here, or you can just drag and drop things on. So what I've got on the desktop here, so I've dragged and dropped 2 files in. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to select shift and click that, press X. Let's bring them back in. I'm going to drag them in like that. So I'm left click, holding them over to select them both, dragging and dropping them in. Now, in Meshmixer, it's all of the functions and the way that you use it is very similar to how you'd use Windows or a Mac. All the buttons, all the shortcuts, everything is pretty much exactly the same. If I can scroll to zoom things in and out, I can hold the right click down to rotate things around, and I can hold the left click down to select. So I can just click and select each different object, okay? Now, the middle mouse button is also the button that I'll hold down and click to move the object around in 3D. So I'm holding the middle mouse button down, which is the scroll wheel, and moving that around. Right button, rotate, middle button, move, left click, select, okay? Now, on the left-hand side here, you'll be able to see there is this select button here, sculpt button here, stamp, which we're not really going to use, edit, analysis, and they're pretty much it. Unless you bring the Christian Breen's tooth library in which case you'll see it like this. You'll go into Meshmixer here, primitives, and you'll see his library, and you'll be able to choose different teeth. But we'll come to that a bit later on. So the simple side of things, when we're bringing these models in, the first thing we really want to do is to isolate, so we're just using one. Now, in the background, some of you might have the background as white or gray, it doesn't really matter, and the scans will come in from different scanners. Some will be upright, some will be flat, it depends, okay? It depends on the scanner. But if you look here, view, I can hide that objects browser that's down here, or I can click view, show objects browser, and turn it back on. And we can see both the upper scan and the lower scan, both there at the same time, okay? Now, I can hide one of them by just turning that little eye here, clicking that, and that'll pop off. Same with the other one, okay? Now, if I have that one selected and I turn that off, then you can see it there, but it's more of an invisible shape. Now, how that helps you when we get a bit more advanced is being able to see things like occlusion and see through things and see where the shape is relative to the other. But for now, it doesn't really matter. So we're just going to go on the upper, okay? Now, when you have a look at an STL like this, sometimes you'll have a little bit more scatter around the edges, and there'll be a little bit more, sort of like a flash at the edge of an impression, where we want to clean the model up a little bit. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is just a really quick and easy thing to do, okay, is the select button. So select, when we're selecting this, what we're doing is we're selecting the triangles underneath. Sometimes the triangles will be bigger and smaller, and if you want to see what those look like, we can click view and we can go on to show wireframe, and that shows you what the tessellated pattern is of the STL underneath, so you can see all of that. Now I'm just going to go back again and check. Could you see all that there? I'm showing you that, and can you hear me okay? Excellent, good, excellent. So we've got the hang of this now, I'm not messing around. So when we're selecting this, what we're doing is if I turn the size of this brush down, we can click and hold, and can you see if I zoom right in and bring this really close, can you see what it's doing is it's filling in all of those little triangles, okay? You see that? Now, if I hold the shift button, I can hold the shift and do the same thing down again, left click and hold, and it'll unselect them, which is useful when we're doing things in Meshmixer. So say like a surface, we want to just deselect one spot. Now, another way of selecting that we can do, I'm going to turn off the wireframe now, is I can click points so we get just a sort of straight line. So I'm going to clear selection now, go select again, left click, and then left click again. I'm not dragging that mouse. I'm going to start that one again because it went a bit crazy. Select, left click, left click, left click, left click, left click. Okay. And then it selects that area. And that's useful sometimes too. Now, once you've selected an area, what we can do, and the first thing I'm going to show you is to virtually extract a tooth. And before I do that, in fact, I'll show you the virtual extraction while it's live on Facebook, and then I'm going to turn that off because I can hear my processing going crazy. And if you want to watch, if you're watching on Facebook Live, then go onto the link and then go and join the lecture that way, and you can still join in. Okay, so select, and we can select a tooth. We can select over it, okay, just like this, nice and easy. Moving it round, the right click and holding the middle button just to go over it a little bit more. There we go. And if I do that, we've selected everything, okay, on that tooth. Now, whenever I'm selecting doing a virtual extraction, I always want to be careful I don't go over the edges too much of the teeth either side. For say the reasons if I'm doing a guide or a bridge, I want to make sure that I can get this in. Because if I select and then delete this area and I make a new tooth that's going to sit into this, it's not going to fit because it's overlapping where this tooth is. So I want to make sure that I stay away from that margin, just a little bit at the side of safety, okay? And the same here. And then deselect. And what am I doing to deselect? I'd ask you, but I can't hear you. So I'm holding the shift button and then doing the exact same thing, holding the left click down and going over it. Now, to delete, really, really nice and easy. All we do is press X. There we go. And it pop, it's gone. Now, we have a hole then in the mesh. So we want to fill that hole. And a very easy, nice way to do that is just to click Analysis, Inspector. And you can see Analysis Inspector, what it's doing is it's checking the integrity of this triangular mesh. So it's pointing out problems with the mesh and little extra bits that might be floating around, this sort of thing. So we can click a ball, get rid of those, okay? You can see there's one here that's pointing to this. There's an extra little hole there, so I'm going to click that. And then it's going to fill it. Done. Now, we could keep going around all these and getting rid of them. But there's one ball that I want you never to touch. And that is the ball that's connected to this blue line here. So the software, when it's analyzing this mesh, is seeing this open impression as an error. It's thinking it should be solid because it won't print if it's not solid. Whereas really, this is just a scan. So it's a 3D shape. Imagine a piece of paper, I always say, folded up into the shape of teeth. It has no thickness. So we couldn't print this like this. But what we certainly don't want to do is let it fill the hole like we did on that tooth, but for the whole thing. If we click that ball up here, it'll spend ages trying to fill this in, and it'll go crazy and probably crash and burn. So, probably not burn, but you know what I mean. So I can click these other points to fix the mesh, but leave that one completely alone. So we'll leave that one alone, and we are good. So I'll press done. Okay. Now, before we go any further, where I'm going to smooth this off and add a tooth and stuff like that. So if I take this now you can see the way it's filled this in. If I put view and show wireframe again, what it's done, it's created a new mesh and connected up all the jagged points of the meshes everywhere it can. It thinks that's best, but it's really just a pure CAD software. It's not thinking of it like filling it the way that you would if you were imagining taking a virtual tooth out in another CAD software and it ditching it. So it creates this weird sort of pattern, and sometimes it does better than others, but really we want to smooth that off a little bit. If we're not bothered about it, we can leave it, but I'm going to turn off the wireframe and smooth that down. So which takes us to the next thing, which is tools. So on the left hand side here, you can see Sculpt, and there are loads of brushes. We've got drag, draw, really the ones that you're going to use most, draw 2, which is a lot stronger, flatten, and bubble smooth. I like bubble smooth. Bubble smooth seems to, really flatten things off nicely, and it will bring things out. And it's important for things like contact points here. If I'm going to smooth this off, I don't really want to flatten it too much, because if I flatten those, then what will happen is it'll mean that the tooth that I put in flattens as well, and then whatever we make won't fit in. So if I go to bubble smooth, just go and rub it on it, click and hold. And you can see here strength is 0, so it's not doing anything. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. Good. And it'll smooth those little knobbly bits down a little bit. Okay. There we go. Now, something that Meshmixer doesn't do very well. It'll draw things out very well. So if you see here brushes, draw, I can bring that up. Or if I draw 2, it'll do it even more so. And you can see it bringing that up like a bump. Now, if I want to try and do the opposite of that, then something I find really works quite nicely. Rather than trying to do a shrink smooth and flatten things out, that sort of thing, it takes ages. For me, I'd rather do the exact opposite of draw, which I'll show you the next thing I do. Now, you can see here, you might think reduce is going to reduce it. No, it doesn't. What it does, again, I'm going to bring this wireframe on to explain it so you can see. If I go on refine and I click here, can you see what it's doing? It's adding more triangle meshes. Can you see that? Now, if I go on to reduce, watch what it does. Look, it simplifies it. You see that? So it'll bring things in. And there are times as you get a bit more advanced that you might want to do, you know, a little bit more to be able to adjust something without affecting the rest of the shape. But again, I'm going to come back to that another time. So we're going to turn that wireframe off. Something which I'm going to do next is, again, something which is really easy for those of you that use Windows or whatever. So I'm in Mac. I'm going to press Command and A. If you're in Windows, then you can press Control and A. So what does that do in Windows or Mac? It selects everything. So I'm going to click Command and A, and boom, everything's selected. Now, to do the opposite, so instead of pulling things out, I'm going to push things in. So I want to reverse the surface a little bit. So an easy way to do that is just to go Edit once you've selected everything, flip normals. And what that does is, you can see the inside is now the outside and vice versa. Yeah. So when I go back to sculpt and go on brushes, if I go on draw, and if I make a bigger brush size, maybe that's a bit too big, and strength there, if I draw that out, guess what it does? It does the opposite. So it pushes it in. So it makes life easy for us, okay? And sometimes you'll want to do that, all right? So you can ditch it in. Go, virtual extraction done, nice and easy. So I'm going to Command and A again, edit, flip normals, and there we go. And we can smooth that a little bit more if we want to. We'll smooth it. Here we go. Nice and easy. Okay. So next thing we want to do, I'm going to show you how to add a tooth. So the rest of this now, what I'm going to show you how to do is add a tooth. I'm going to thicken up the back of a tooth next door, and we're going to combine that into one model. I'm going to turn it into a model that you can print, and then you can use that, even if you do nothing else, you can use that to see how you would go about watching other videos to do a mock-up on loads of different teeth, which would, you know, take me a bit longer to show you. But you do the same process of moving a tooth around. Or you could do it with a single tooth like this with a virtual extraction, thicken it up, print it off, take an impression of it, and use it to do a very quick and easy Maryland bridge, temporary Maryland after an extraction. So let's do that. So we've done the extraction. The next thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you 2 ways of adding a tooth in. In this library on my desktop here, where is it? This library. Before I go any further, actually, let's just check and make sure nobody's completely lost and you're all following me a little bit. So here we go. Any questions so far? Nope, all good. Good. Right, let's minimize that again. So now we've got this. You can see I'm rotating this again. If I go into this folder, this is the anterior folder by Jan Hadco. Now you can get this on a couple of different websites. I think it's actually cheapest on the dda-lab.com, and the payment then goes off to Jan. So it's not to us, it goes to them. This anterior STL, you can see here, these are all the different teeth that are in the library. So there's loads of them, and different people call them different things. Skin libraries or teeth smile libraries or whatever, but they're all based on the same thing. And it's a really nice set of smiles that are really elegant to use. And he's done an amazing job. Jan's going to be doing a lecture as well over the next couple of weeks, so absolutely catch up with that. You can see here we've got M, 2, 5, 7, 9, they're masculine ones as well, and F is the feminine one. And if you go into each folder, what he's got is a photo of the actual teeth here, and then 3D version. So say we wanted, let's have a look. It's that sort of style of tooth. So we wanted to bring in that one tooth, then we can just click that and drag it in, okay? I'm not going to do that because that's what I do when I'm doing a full set of smile design, and I can bring in, you can print the model that's got included with the library, or just the teeth with the roots, you can bring them all in together, whatever. But another great tool is the Christian Breen's library. So if I go into Meshmix, if I click Meshmix there, you can see that Christian Breen's tooth library. If you want to see how you install that, again, go to digitalenamel.com, August and Todd's website, and August has a great article on importing the Meshmixer into Meshmixer Christian Breen's tooth library. Great library, very handy. So I'm going to choose the upper left central there. I'm going to left click and drag it on. Now you can see here it's just adding it. I'm going to click accept, and you can see it's nowhere near where we want it. So the next function I'm going to show you, and you can see here I can still left click different objects, and you want to always bring in, by the way, another object. You want to always bring it in as a new object. You never want to append it to the existing model. But once we've brought that in, then I can press T. If I press T, then we get this little thing up. Now, this is basically the way that you're going to move things around in Meshmixer. And you can see there's different ways of doing it. So if I zoom into this tooth, there is the arrows that are set to where the orientation of that tooth is. And we can create snapping, turn that off, whichever. But the main thing is the ones that are curved here, how you rotate things. The arrows, how we move things. And these little squares will stretch in the direction that those arrows are in. So if I want to widen the tooth, I'm going to stretch it that way. Okay. And you can see I can do all this and make it go really crazy. Or the middle one, that little cube right in the middle, I can left click and hold, shoot it up. And I'll press enter, and it looks absolutely crazy. Nobody wants a big giant tooth like that. So what do you do when you're in Windows? If you want to undo something, you click Control and Z. Or in Mac, I'm going to click Command and Z. So I'm going to click Command and Z. There we go. And back, and back, and back, and back. There we go. And it's back to how it was. So you can keep going back through your functions that you've made on the model to undo any mistakes. So I'm going to move this. Move it up here. And then we're still moving the whole frame, exactly like I said before. Right click and rotate. Middle click on the scroll wheel to move it around. I'm going to rotate that there. There you go. And that one, so it's up there. Okay. So we've sort of got that in the right place. Here we go. Okay. Now, obviously, if I had more time, I could show you. We could also copy and paste this model. There's a function to mirror if you want to mirror it as well. There's a video on the DDA YouTube where I've shown that you can go on as well. But other than that, we've pretty much got that looking nice there. That's looking okay. So check the profile, make sure it's looking good everywhere. That looks fine. So click accept. And let's have a look with the lower jaw on. So I'll turn that back on. And you can see it's interfering there a little bit. So why don't we, if I zoom in, and that's the middle. Remember, this tooth is still just highlighted on its own. All right. What we can do is reduce that, but I'm not going to do it yet. And the reason why I'm not going to do it yet is because I want to attach it to this model first, and we want to build it up there ready for a Maryland. So I'm going to turn the lower jaw off again. Now, what I'm going to do is select both of these models. So if you want to select more than one thing in Windows or Mac, wherever you are, then what you'd do is you'd have one thing, you'd hold Shift, and you select the other. And it's the same in Meshmixer, nice and easy. So select one, hold Shift, click the other, and we've got both selected, you can see. Another way you can do it, in the list, you can click that one, hold Shift, and do it in the list as well. Either way, both are selected. And you can see once we've got more than one thing selected, then this new little menu pops up. And again, there's more advanced things we can show you, and if we had more time, that with things like the Boolean difference and stuff like that to join things or take things away, that sort of thing. And again, there are more tutorials on IDDA and YouTube and Vimeo, people's websites like Digital Now. Okay, so I'm going to click this one, Combine. So if you click Combine here, what happens is it's turned on. That's just one model now. You can see it's still there. Now, when things are joined together with combine function, what it's doing is basically putting a magic glue to combine both of those pieces of paper shaped in the shape of teeth and joining them together to be one. But there's still two pieces of paper. So if we want to separate those, and you might use this with other things like, when you're transforming something or doing the things that I was making for the COVID thing. If we want to separate these two, then all we do is see this edit here. We click this thing, separate shells. And bang, we've got two objects again. We can click that one and that one. Yeah? So it's helpful if you want to go back and separate things for whatever reason. So I'm going to do it again. Hold Shift, click, and then we go Combine. Okay. So now we've got one object. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make this fatter here and this fatter here so we can use it for a Maryland. So I'm going to go on brushes and draw it out a little bit. There we go. So that builds up a little bit. I might be thinking, but isn't that going to just the occlusion too? Against that. So I'm going to put all smooth now. Make sure that's nice and smooth. Smooth it off in between a little bit. There we go. Okay. So now we've built those up a little bit. Maybe might build that up a little bit more in between. Bigger. Let's just flatten it. Again. Okay, so that's built up. So if we printed that now and took an impression and used something like ProTemp or whatever type of tempering material and put that impression over the teeth, then it would leave, obviously after the tooth been extracted, it would leave behind a tooth with a little bit around the back here on each of the neighboring teeth. So, next thing, the occlusion. So if we look here now, look, interfering in a few places. So what did we do before when we were reducing? I'm going to Command and A, edit, flip the normals again, and I'm going to go on sculpt, brushes, drop. So if it's necessary, the audio needs tweaking. Let's have a look. I'll turn it off and on again. Okay. Does that sound better now? Great, good. Okay, so sorry, I can't see the chat box when I'm on Meshmixer. So here I've now got this inside out, so I can go back to draw it here and then shrink that down so it doesn't interfere with the occlusion. And obviously you'd have a look in the mouth and use some articulating paper and make sure there was no other interferences, that sort of thing. It's just a quick and easy version. Okay, good. So now we have a new tooth. Check to the occlusion. We can turn the lower off. See, it's indented there where that is. I might just flatten those little bits. Sculpt. There we go. And then we'll send it back around again. So selecting all, flip normals, and there we go. So now we've got a new tooth. We're adjusted for the occlusion, and it's there. Okay, so let's just check. Any questions so far? No questions? Good. Right, next thing I'm going to show you is turning this into a model. So if I bring this into the middle, now what I want to do is basically bring this model in line with this plane. So if I position it like that, you can see the horizontal axis here. You see that sort of white line? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this low one because we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to delete that with this little bin button here. If I Command and Z, it'll come back. There it is. Okay, so it's there still. Or I can delete it this way. So I can select it and press X. And pow, it's gone. Now, what I'm going to do is show you how to do a really, really easy model. Okay, so when you've got a scan from a 3D scanner, other than a Carestream scanner that has the scan flow where you can output an STL that's already made into the shape of a model, there aren't many others that can output a model. I think the Meta does, but I'm not too sure. But anyway, so I'm going to show you a really, really easy way of doing it. So we're going to do the same thing again to transform. So I'll press T. I'm going to rotate this so that it's pointing with everything pretty much the insertion angle, if you imagine, of everything is pointing upwards. You see that? I'm going to have a look here, rotate it that way a little bit. Okay. What we don't want is undercut, basically. So if I had a position like that, if the teeth were proclined forwards, it might not be able to print them, okay? So I'm going to raise this up a little bit to about there. Let's see if we can get away with turning that anymore. No, it's pretty much vertical now. Okay, so let's accept that. Next thing, edit. And there's this function called plane cut. And this is really, really nice. So watch this. So plane cut, I'm going to chop off everything that you can't see that goes this sort of ghost image is going to get chopped off. So let's have a look. Now, I only want this model to go up to, say, the premolars. I'm going to chop all that off in a minute as well, because if I print all of that, it's going to use resin. If I'm just using the front tooth, then realistically I don't need the back tooth, do I? So I'm going to chop off everything below there. So I'm going to click accept, and then I'm going to go around. I'm going to click plane cut again, and I'm going to switch this that way. Look over the top, rotate it to get to the points that I want. So like there we go. And I'm going to have this angled ever so slightly forward like that. So there's nothing, like I say, there's no undercut. If it's like that, it won't print. So I'm going to tilt it just a little bit past the vertical. There we go, backwards a little bit. There we go, check it on both sides. That's good. Click accept again. Good. So now we have what we want to print. The problem is it's still a shell. So you can see here, it's just very thin. There's nothing inside. That wouldn't print because there's no thickness. So what do we have to do? Click Command and A. That selects everything. And then this menu pops up again. So I'm going to click Edit, Extrude. And then I'm going to offset. Everything is going to basically drag down. August's magic numbers, -11. Direction, Y. And then the end type, flat. Now you can see sometimes you get a couple of little bits of crazy stuff like this, or it goes a bit too far. So you can see here it's a bit thick, so we don't want it quite that big. So I'm going to change that to 9. Let's see how that looks. There we go, a bit shorter. That's good. So we've got a model there, nice and easy. Don't worry about bits like that. I'm going to come back to that. So I'm going to click accept. There we go. So now we have a 3D model that's ready to go. Now let's see if anybody can think. Why would we not want to leave it there? What do we want to do to it before we print it? Yes. Well done, Sandy. Excellent. So we want to hollow it. So if I go to clear selection, and then I'm going to go to edit, and look at this. Does it for you. Hollow. Works it out. Bang. Done. Nice and easy. Okay. Now, why would we not want to leave it at that? What else do we need to do to it? Let's see what you're thinking. What else do we need to do to it? Yes. Well done, Theodora. Excellent. So, yeah, we want to add a few tubes for the resin to flow out of. And that's, again, really easy. It's got a function here. So add tube. And look at that. That's huge because I've been doing it making ventilator parts. So we don't need it that big. So let's have a look. Go down to 2 mil. There we go. It's maybe still a bit big. Let's do it 1 mil. That's better. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just pick somewhere that's not going to interfere with the teeth or anything like that. I'm going to go from one side straight through to the other, like that. And that should be okay. Let's have a look. Maybe it needs raising a little bit so it doesn't interfere with the sides there. Click accept. Bang. Done. Nice tube. You can see going all the way through. Nice and easy. Now sometimes, and let's see if I can get this to happen. So if I put this tube in and I put it so that it's a little bit too low. Let's see if this does it. Sometimes it goes a bit crackers and it adds a tube rather than taking away, because I put here the settings line inside, combining Boolean, so it's going to subtract it, and I want it as a straight line with a radius 1 mil there. Let's see if this does it with that slightly too low. No, it's still put it out. Sometimes when you cut in the hole through, it'll add a tube, like I say, instead. And all you do is then click Command and Z and just move it a little bit. but I would say keep it above where that base is, where it's hollowed the base there, that thickness. Keep it above that if you can. And you'd add maybe 3 or 4 holes on either side. That should be fine, depending on the model and where the teeth are, just to give it the ability for the resin to flow out and to wash. So you can maybe add another one here. So I'm just left clicking these red little balls, moving that around. There we go. Click accept. There we go. So now we've cut a load of tubes, and can you see this little extra bit? So what I'm going to do is, if I go to Analysis, Inspector, let's just check our model, make sure everything's good, and see if there's any problems that might cause the problems when we print it. So that, we'll just click that away. This is doing something here, so I'm going to click that and that. It's decided not to take that away. Let's try it again. Done. Inspector. No, happy with that. It won't even print that because it has no thickness, so I'm not too fussed about that. But there you go. So now we have a printed model with relieving draining holes there. And if we were going to do a full mock-up, then I would do exactly the same, add in this tooth, but I would add a series of them. I bring in 4 to 4 at a time, or 5 to 5, or whatever it is, bring them in, and then just shuffle them around to fit over the top. Whenever I do a mock-up for a smile makeover, and I'm doing, say, 4 to 4 or 5 to 5 or whatever, then I never really bother with the occlusion. I never really bother with taking it away like this. This is just for me to show you if we were doing a Maryland. But when I'm doing a full makeover, I'm not bothered because it's only the buccal surface that I want to change. If I'm doing the inside surface, it'd be for something like a bridge or something where it actually would concern me, because all I'm going to do is copy that buccal surface. I'm going to take my bite and everything else from the teeth as they are now, because my personal preference with everything, when I'm doing veneers or crowns or whatever, I always rather the occlusion to be conformed to as much as possible. And if you want to know more about digital occlusion, then Hossam Dow is doing a lecture, and he's your man for that. He's going to show you some really fab stuff. A couple of other things I want to show you. So what you can do as well, if you want to see how a model would print, then we can go to overhangs, and what it'll do, it'll work out where the overhangs are and see if you could add your own supports ready to go to a 3D printer. So now it knows that isn't touching the base. See there? It thinks the base, if I add the print bed, view, and print bed, here we go. You can see there's this gap, so it's thinking I need to support that, okay? So then you could generate supports, that sort of thing, commit sort, which I'm not going to do. So we'll turn off the printer bed. And some other things to show you. If you bring in Christian Breen's tooth library, then it has not only teeth there for the single teeth or more. See here, there's just those. There's also anterior 6 for maxilla, for mandible, or even all the teeth together. So if you had an edentulous arch, then you could bring those in, and they're really nice. Okay, so I'm going to show you very quickly. I'm going to show you how to repair something on a model if you've got a gap. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in a model again. So if I go to, I'll enter that so it's done. Let's bring it in again. Upload. I'm going to replace it to bring in a new model again. So say you have, I'm going to do this on purpose, okay? But say you have a bit missing from your STL like that, then that's easy enough, because then you just go to Analysis and Inspector, and you can see there. Oh, let's try that again. Analysis, Inspector, and it'll fill that in, okay? If, however, we have something like this, where there's a bit cut out like that we need, then if you're stuck and there's nothing else to do, what you can do is I can select, let's make it a bit bigger, a couple of points here, just 1 point here, 1 point here, and then go to edit and bridge, and you can see it creates this new piece there. I'll click accept, and then we've got a new piece there. I'll clear selection again. So now I can go to analysis, inspector, and now I can fill that hole, and it'll fill it to try and fit it in with the rest of the meshes. But can use the webinars to replay it later, just asking due to the massive time differences. Yes, Henry, yes, we can. And all of the lectures are going to be uploaded onto idda.org for the members there. So the lectures, if you go to idda.org, and if you're not a member, join with the code COVID-19. We're giving everybody half price off with that while we're doing all these. And you'll be able to watch all the, we're going to host all the videos on there for people to watch at the convenience while this is all going on. Because obviously, like you say, they're all in different time zones. Any other questions? Can I cover anything else with you while I've got you? Or is that you done? And is it now time to go and enjoy the rest of your day? Few people typing. Happy with that. Cheers, Adam. You are welcome. Sorry about the sound issues at the beginning. If you have any questions about anything, you can always get in touch with me. As you start using all these things, please put your cases that you do. Don't ever be worried about anybody being critical on the Digital Dental Academy forum. We set it up for you guys so you can learn. So stick it on, show us what you get up to, and let's see how you get on with them. Show us how you make things. It'd be great to see. And if you need anything, we're there as well. We're always online and stuff. And like I said, the main thing is there's some really fab lectures coming up. There's the full list on 3D print COVID-19. And if you haven't donated, I know it's a hard time for everybody, but it would be much appreciated. So thank you very much for everybody for joining us. And I'll see you around over the next couple of weeks. Okay. See you later.